In this video, you will uncover the truth about one of Africa's greatest civilizations, a lost empire built not by outsiders, but by Africans themselves. How the people created towering stone cities, ruled vast trade networks, and left behind a legacy that defied centuries of myth and denial. This is the story of the Great Zimbabwe, the House of Stone. In the heart of southern Africa, near the modern town of Masvingo, lies a sprawling maze of ancient stone walls. Built without mortar, rising from the granite hills, they twist and curve like the veins of the earth itself. These are the Great Zimbabwe Ruins, a city that once pulsed with life, trade, and royal power between the 11th and 15th centuries CE. For centuries, it stood hidden from the world, its builders long gone, its secrets buried in silence. When European explorers stumbled upon it in the late 1800s, they were stunned. A massive fortress in the African wilderness. But who built it? What they found would challenge the world's understanding of African history. To understand Great Zimbabwe, we must travel back nearly 1,000 years to the Shona people, ancestors of the modern Zimbabweans. Between 1100 and 1450 CE, the Shona forged a powerful kingdom from stone and soil. They were farmers, herders, and traders, but above all, they were builders. Their land was rich in gold, ivory, and cattle, and through trade with the Swahili coast, their goods reached as far as Persia, India, and China. In exchange came beads, porcelain, and fine textiles, treasures that symbolized both wealth and spiritual prestige. As their power grew, so did their ambition, and soon, an empire of stone began to rise. Unlike anything else in Africa at the time, Great Zimbabwe was built from massive granite blocks, stacked with precision, without a single drop of mortar. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. Builders shaped each stone to fit perfectly against the next, creating walls that still stand today, some 11 meters high and 6 meters thick. The city spread across nearly 800 hectares, divided into three main areas. The hill complex, perched high above the valley, served as the royal citadel, the spiritual and political heart of the kingdom. The great enclosure, an enormous circular wall enclosing courtyards and passageways, stood as a symbol of royal power. Its towering conical tower still one of Africa's greatest mysteries. And below, the valley ruins, where thousands of citizens lived, worked, and traded. Every wall, every corridor was a statement, a declaration of identity, unity, and mastery of the land. This was more than architecture. It was art, authority, and faith carved from stone. At its height, Great Zimbabwe was a thriving metropolis, home to perhaps 20,000 people, connected to an international network of trade that stretched across continents. Archaeologists have unearthed Arab glass beads, Chinese ceramics, and Persian pottery within its ruins, proof that the city's wealth flowed from global exchange. Gold mined in the hills of Zimbabwe traveled east to coastal ports like Sofala, where it was traded across the Indian Ocean. In return came luxury goods and exotic treasures that enriched the royal court. But Great Zimbabwe's true wealth wasn't just gold, it was influence. Its kings ruled vast territories, commanding loyalty through both divine right and economic power. It was Africa's medieval powerhouse, a beacon of civilization long before colonial empires arrived. The builders of Great Zimbabwe were not only engineers, they were visionaries. The walls and towers were imbued with spiritual meaning. The massive conical tower within the great enclosure remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. Some believe it symbolized royal authority. Others see it as a grain store, representing fertility and abundance, a sign of the king's ability to feed his people. Religion and governance were inseparable. The Shona rulers were seen as divine, mediators between the living and the spirits of their ancestors. From the hill complex, kings would preside over rituals, offerings, and ceremonies. calling upon the ancestors for rain and prosperity. Each stone carried a message, one of unity between the earth and the spirit world. But like all empires, Great Zimbabwe's glory eventually faded. By the 15th century, its fields had grown weary, its pastures overgrazed, and its trade routes shifted toward the north. New powers rose, like the Matapa Kingdom, which inherited much of its wealth and culture. By around 1450 CE, the once great city was largely abandoned. Its people dispersed, and silence reclaimed the walls. Yet the stone remained, a timeless monument to what once was. When European explorers arrived in the 19th century, they refused to believe that Black Africans could have built such sophistication. In 1871, German explorer Karl Mach claimed the ruins were the fabled palace of the Queen of Sheba. Others insisted it must have been built by Phoenicians or Arabs. For decades, colonial scholars twisted facts to fit their prejudice, erasing African achievement from the narrative of civilization. But in 1929, British archaeologist Gertrude Cotton Thompson led a groundbreaking excavation. Her conclusion was undeniable. The evidence is unmistakable. Great Zimbabwe is unquestionably African in origin. That truth shattered the colonial myth and restored a stolen legacy to the people of Zimbabwe. Today, Great Zimbabwe is more than an archaeological site. It's a national symbol. When the country gained independence in 1980, it took its very name from this ancient city. Zimbabwe means House of Stone in the Shona language, a tribute to the strength, resilience, and creativity of its ancestors. In 1986, UNESCO declared it a World Heritage Site, recognizing it as one of Africa's most precious historical treasures. Tourists and scholars continue to walk its paths, tracing the footsteps of a civilization that once rivaled the great empires of the medieval world. And for the Shona people, the site remains sacred, a link to ancestors who built with vision and purpose, guided by spirit and stone.